All right, folks, and joining us now is Larry Kudlow, CNBC senior contributor, host of the Larry Kudlow Show on Cumulus Radio. Check your local listings. Larry, you know, we've still a lot we don't know, obviously, and we're going to find out a lot more, but it appears it's an act of terror, a horrific act of terror in Nice. And, you know, what could you say? And putting it in political speak, and you hate to do that, especially so early on, but if it's an act of terror, and it wasn't done with a gun, and if it turns out to be ISIS-inspired, these are all ifs, politically speaking, it plays into what Donald Trump has been saying all along.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, I've been to Nice so many times, Steve, down through the years. It's such a beautiful place, and that whole, you know, French Riviera. You just hate to see it. I'm reading it on Newsmax right now as we talk because I've been on the phone. So it's horrible, and I hate to look at it through that prism, but I will agree with you on this, that the polling shows that the public has more confidence in Trump with respect to fighting Muslim jihadist terrorism, particularly insofar as protecting our borders and not letting refugees in unless we have absolute information about them, which we don't. And Mr. Trump, in most cases, has said if you've come from a part of the world where there's a lot of terrorism, we're not going to let you in until you're fully vetted. We can't vet you, so better off to stay there. And U.S. can give you some money to set up refugee settlements and so forth. So the polling suggests the public is more confident about Trump on these issues, whether that's completely fair or not. That's the way it works.
Right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about all the VP speculation. You, of course, an economic advisor to Trump, along with Stephen Moore, who I spoke to earlier this week on the Chris Plant show when I was filling in, and Art Lafler. But before we get to all that, let's talk a little bit about Mike Pence. I understand from Steve that on the plane, Steve said that Trump was asking people, what do you think of Mike Pence? So would you predict now, as we're just hours away from tomorrow morning at 11 in New York City, that it will probably be Pence?
I would not dare to predict anything unless on the Steve Malzberg show, unless I was 100% certain, that I'm not. I'm not in that loop. But I will say, Mr. Pence, who is an old friend of mine, is rock solid. It would be an excellent choice. He's a free market, pro-growth guy. He's a tax cutter. He's a stable dollar guy. He's a deregulator. He's an unleash energy guy. I mean, it doesn't get any better from anybody besides Mike Pence. So I think it would be an inspired choice. I can't confirm anything, obviously.
Right.
But it would be, to me, a home run, an absolute home run. And again, Pence is going to reinforce Mr. Trump's own views, which some conservatives still don't believe. Trump is a pro-growth guy. He's in the Reagan tradition of lower taxes and regulations. He wants to unleash energy, and he wants to trade, but he wants it to be fair and enforceable. Pence agrees with that. Reagan agreed with that. It's pro-growth. That's the biggest problem the country has. The economy's growing at 2, and it ought to grow at 4 or 5. So Pence is a growth guy, and Trump is a growth guy, and it's going to be a great fit.
Well, I want you to hear something Hillary Clinton said, and this is just after you and Stephen Moore and Art Lafler, and by the way, you're also a co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. We should talk about that as well. But she took a knock at you guys and in his economic circle, which includes you and the aforementioned. Here's what she said.
He's apparently bringing in the biggest names in trickle-down, supply-side economics to help him figure out what to do. Now, these are the same advisors who brought us 30 years of a disastrous Republican philosophy that gave the huge breaks to those at the top. And they'll try to use voodoo economics to tell us all the ways it will actually help the economy. But they're not fooling anybody. At least I hope they're not.
All right, Larry, what do you think of that?
Well, if she's referring to me, I'm honored. I mean, truly honored. And in terms of the 30 years of trickle down, it's very important to note that her husband was a practitioner and a subscriber. I mean, it was Bill Clinton with Newt Gingrich who lowered the capital gains tax rate by 8 percentage points, who reformed the welfare system, who fought for free trading deals, and therefore, I guess Hillary was either asleep when she was in the First Lady White House, or she's had another big split with her husband, because he was part of that whole era. And the economy under Reagan and Clinton together, 20 years, grew at close to 4% per year on average, with only a teeny recession. So I think America would welcome that compared to what we've been having under Obama, which is 2% growth, poor wages, et cetera, et cetera. So I would love to meet with Mrs. Clinton. I can see the headline. Kudlow talks Mrs. Clinton into corporate tax reform. She has no pro-growth plan. Can I just say that? Nothing. I've culled everything she said and written. She is raising taxes, not cutting them. She is increasing regulations. She is expanding Obamacare so it's going to be single payer. She rails against rich people, rich corporations, banks. She has no pro-growth, not one iota of pro-growth. So I don't know how she thinks she's going to run, honestly. And I'm not surprised. By the way, her polls are dropping.
Oh, yeah.
Between all these horrible shootouts that are going on and have gone around the country, she's taken the wrong side of all this, accusing cops of being racist and defending the black group. She's a stock looking for a bottom right now in the polls. That's the way I look at it. Every poll is showing her gapping lower, and it's because of her performance. It's because of the personal server indictment, not an official indictment. I'll call it a semi-indictment by Comey. So she had nothing on growth. She's on the wrong side of race relations. She's on the wrong side of law and order. She's on the wrong side of health care. I just don't get it. And when I hear those clips, as I say, I'm honored if she attacks me. I'd be happy to have her use my name, because her husband was a lot closer to us than to her. Right. Let's be very clear on that. And I might add, not just on the economy, but on crime.
Yeah.
Because a tough crime bill was passed by Bill Clinton.
Yep.
And
but Larry, now they apologize. Every welfare reform, the crime bill, don't ask, don't tell, everything he accomplished, now they apologize for it, because the party is so far off the left cliff they have to.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Look, black lives matter, but white lives matter, and police matter.
Yep.
And as Martin Luther King said, we should not be judged by the color of the skin, but
content
the
of character.
Of our personality.
Larry, I thank you very much. Always great to talk to you, sir. Larry Kudlow. Up next, folks, John Gizzi joins us from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. Don't go away.